Welcome back. Today I have an amazing guest, and she is precious. She's gone through a transition in the last few years, like many of us have. There's been such a shaking since 2019, 2020. And so one of the joys of my life is being able to hear how others have weathered this shaking. Usually we can't talk about it when we're in the middle of it. It's usually when we start to get on the other side of it and see hope and aha moments and wow, that makes sense. Dr. Alaia Greene is a doctor. She studied infectious disease. She specialized as an internist, and she loved that field. And then the Lord just, through a series of life events, moved her to Florida, and through this and through that and through this and through that, we arrive here, and you're going to hear all about it. So I'm going to let her tell the story, not me, but Dr. Alaia, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jen. It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
I know you had to drive from Alabama to here, to there, to that, and you made it.
I did.
Yay. Well, there's a scripture in 3 John that says, "Beloved, I wish nothing more than that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul or your spirit prosper." And so, you know, God's very clear. He wanted the Israelites to be healed. There wasn't one sick or feeble one among them after, their journey. And God cares about health and well-being. And yet sometimes we avoid that topic because we think it's science or medicine, and then God's over here, and He really created all of it. And so I want you to encourage the people watching today that maybe they have been raised to believe in and value beyond what they should traditional medicine. And maybe they're on all kinds of medications and all kinds of pills, and this pill helps this, but it's creating this symptom, and this pill is doing this, and this pill is making them go to sleep, and this pill is making them wake up, and they want to be free, and they feel like this just can't be what God has for me. And I know that's your passion, to help people thrive and feel good. Okay, so I know I said a lot. So where do we start in your journey?
Well, I love so many things about what you said, because of course and I say of course, which maybe is, I shouldn't say and assume, but of course I went into medicine because I wanted to help people, and I had a passion for helping people thrive and be well. And I really value the education I got in terms of learning physiology, pathology, anatomy, microbiology, things like that. And those ultimately are the core things I've come back to, because unfortunately, or maybe it's fortunately, the way medicine has evolved in large part has to do also with politics and money.
Correct.
And currently, a lot of what's happening in medicine is driven by Big Pharma. And even though Big Pharma has done wondrous things in some ways to really revolutionize medicine and change some things for some people, and I do go back to some of those traditional teachings at times.
Right.
Ultimately, what I found is that in chronic disease especially, I'm not talking about you just got in a car accident, you have
Correct.
a bunch of broken bones and you need emergency care. That's different perhaps. But in chronic disease management, rather than just putting a pill on a symptom and not worrying about the long-term side effects, like you said, of those pills, instead, why not work on the body and getting it to work the way God intended, the way we were created? Because at the end of the day, it comes back to the beginning, which is our bodies are amazing healing machines. Yeah. And the body is capable of really anything. All things are possible. And I started learning that when I faced my own health challenges. And I was coming to roadblocks in traditional medicine.
Yeah.
And couldn't get well.
What were some of the health challenges that you were facing?
For me personally, and it's always, I do this with my patients too, you can really see how every single thing in your life leads up to the now if you really sit back and reflect. And for me, just as a child, having a lot of sinus infections
Yeah.
and being on a lot of antibiotics, that changes the microbiome in your nose, the microbiome in your stomach, the microbiome in your colon, anywhere there's a mucous membrane, there are living organisms that are there to help us flourish positively. But if those get shifted, then those other organisms that start to predominate, to live there in a higher quantity, that can create havoc. So that was the beginning. But then I started developing migraine headaches. They run in my family. So start taking pills for that, non-steroidals like ibuprofen, Aleve. Then you start breaking down the lining in your stomach and impairing your kidney. And now you're getting more stomach problems and heartburn. So I had one of the worst stomachs and digestive issues of anyone I knew, starting in medical school, running around under stress and unable to, you're working tons of hours, you're not sleeping, you're not eating right, and now you're taking pills for the headaches, and it just keeps going. And so what I learned was there's ways you can start feeding the body what it wants.
Yes.
With natural things that God has provided us just from the earth, from plants, from herbal medicine, from energy medicine. I didn't even understand what energy was. That's not something that they talk about in traditional training.
Right.
And I had other non-conventional healers starting to teach me these things as I was seeking answers. And a close friend of mine who I trained with years ago, she was my go-to because she had kind of gone off on her own and was doing energy medicine and nutrition and things like that. And what happened is she passed away, unfortunately, and very suddenly. And that was, though, part of my own journey because she was killed by her husband, unbeknownst to any of us. None of us knew that that was going to take place, of course, and it was a shock. And as a result of that, I didn't have my close friend anymore who was my go-to to call. So
your source wasn't there.
My source in this, earth
So you had to become
experience.
a source.
So I had to start developing the answers from within myself and finding those within. And that is my strongest message for everyone today, perhaps, is that we do have the answers within us and God provides them.
Yeah.
And so reconnecting to God and coming into our heart space and really starting to connect those pieces, feeding our soul, feeding our spirit, feeding the body the nutrients, then we can start seeing the answers much more clearly. And I tell people all the time, you have the answers within you. My job is to help get them out of you so we can work in partnership toward healing.